Vedanta Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandrodaya ki jai. Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Welcome everyone for the Bhagavad Gita overview session. So we have been discussing from Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, and so far we have discussed up to verse number 30. So we'll continue our discussions from further verses onwards today. We'll try to cover next 10 to 12 verses today, possible more also. So before we start, let's have a quick recap of what we have understood so far in the previous chapters. Okay. So this is part 4 of the chapter 2. So, some disturbance. So all these discussions we are having by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, who has so mercifully given us Bhagavad Gita as it is, with complete translations and purports. So in chapter 1, just titled Observing the Armies in the Battlefield of Kurukshetra, it was discussed that we have understood that there are 4 observers, basically. One is Dhritarashtra, one more is Duryodhana, Sanjaya and Arjuna, all giving their viewpoints from their own perspectives with regard to what they are seeing on the battlefield, right? And basically this chapter is like a overview of what we are going to study in the rest of the 17 chapters. It's like a background and setting the scene for the whole Bhagavad Gita's context. And the various discussions which are going to happen is based on the context which is set up in the chapter 1. And basically Arjuna was representing as a common person being influenced by the various family relations and family connections, because of which he became overwhelmed with too much of attachment to his family members, and he expressed his inability to fight because of his too much attachment to his family members, and he was giving various reasonings why he should not fight. Rather, he's stating that he was the person who had come for fighting. He finally sat on the chariot and he was telling that I don't want to fight. Right? That was his decision towards the end of the Gita. That's where the second chapter begins, with Sanjaya explaining to us that the situation of Arjuna was very, you can say he was in complete moroseness and bereavement and lamentation. And the second chapter is more or less the contents of the Gita summarized, wherein we'll see various aspects, various subject matters which Krishna is going to explain to us. The first 10 verses are about the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna continuing, and then the first 20, after that the 20 verses which we have discussed already is given us the understanding of the knowledge about the soul, Gyan Yoga, And the verses which we're going to discuss today is going to talk about Karma Yoga. And the next verses which we're going to discuss will be from Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. And finally, towards the end of this chapter, Krishna is going to explain about Sthita Prajna. Means a person who is actually self-realized, what are his qualities. So the first 10 verses, Krishna was surprised that his friend Arjuna was speaking like a person whom he didn't expect it from. So he was directly on a friendly terms trying to cheer him up by, in fact, in one sense, trying to chastise him and trying to make him understand what are you doing. Telling him the way of talking is like, it is anarya, or a person doesn't know the values of life. And doing like this will only bring you infamy, like this he was telling. And basically, you are overcome by weakness of heart. So you get up and fight, Arjuna. Arjuna further was reasoning that great personalities like Bhishma and Drona are there. Fighting with them is not proper. And maybe even though they may not know what they're doing, but we doing all these things is not proper. In one sense, Arjuna was expressing his confusion and perplexity more and more as he was talking. And also in one side, he was giving his devotee side of the whole understanding. So in that way, it was a dilemmatic situation for Arjuna. And finally, he submitted to Krishna, telling that, Krishna, I am such a state of affairs that I'm not able to understand what I'm thinking or doing. Please guide me and tell me properly what I should be doing. And I am your disciple now. I surrender you as my disciple, and you please guide me. This is where actually the instructions from here, the instructions of Bhagavad Gita actually begin. Verse number 11 onwards, we see that Krishna is going to start instructions, and in the previous 20 verses, Krishna has elaborately explained about the nature of the soul, right? The science of the soul is explained. And Krishna is telling that we individually, we are eternals. All of us are eternally individuals, and we have our soul as unchanging, because the body is ever changing, and all these various experiences of the body are only sense perceptions. We need to tolerate them for our own ultimate liberation from this world. And in different ways, Krishna is explaining the nature of the soul as eternal, permanent, ever-existing, undying, and so many aspects which we have discussed in detail. Krishna also was telling that soul is actually non-material, right? So detailed description of these 20 verses is going to give you the science of the soul in a complete way. So all these descriptions were basically to make Arjuna understand that he is not the body, he is spirit soul. And his lamentation was on the bodily platform was not at all worthy, right? You should know that he is spirit soul and he is not to be killed, actually. Either he is not killing anybody or not he is getting killed. That's what Krishna wanted to tell. So Krishna also presented briefly from different various philosophies which were contemporarily in that way. It was all prevalent during those times, like the Nastikavada, Karmavada, Shunyavada, right? Like this, Krishna mentioned different philosophies in order to convince Arjuna again that, see, from different angles, what your understanding and what you're thinking is wrong. So you have to do your duty, and you should not simply lament for unnecessarily for the death of your relatives. So basically, Krishna through Jnana is trying to make Arjuna understand that the lamentation which Arjuna was going through is not worthy, right? So that was the conclusion which Krishna made in verse 30, that the soul is eternal. He who dwells within this body, Dehi Nityam Avadhyoyam, and Dehi is spirit soul, cannot be killed, right? He can never be slain, right? So that for that reason, Arjuna, Tasmat Sarvani Bhutani Natvam Shochitam Varhasi. You should not grieve for any creature. In one sense, nobody is going to die. What is dying is only the external dress. Spirit soul, nobody has any death. So the soul is immortal. And one sense, violence is not encouraged, but when violence is required to maintain law and order, and especially when it is the order of Krishna to maintain law and order, and while war is required, dharma yuddha is required, then dharma yuddha has to be fought. That is the instruction which Krishna ended in verse 30. Now, beginning with verse 31, Krishna is going to explain about the duties which everybody has to do, karma aspect. Means all of us, when we are born with specific nature and qualities. Krishna is going to elaborate on this later in the next few chapters. But here, as I told you, second chapter is having all the various contents and various principles mentioned briefly. So Krishna is going to touch upon many principles here in a very brief manner. Later on, further explanation of the same will be given. So Krishna starts telling Arjuna that all of us have something known as swadharma. Right? This is the verse which begins the next verse, 23rd verse number 31. Krishna says that swadharmam api chaveksha na vikampitam arhasi dharmadhi yuddhach shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. He says, considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. Chhod do, kuch nahi ho to chhod do. So here you can see Krishna is using the word swadharma. Swadharma, basically Prabhupada explains, swa means own, dharma means duty. So what is our duty presently? Now, Prabhupada explains very nicely in the purport that because we have got a body now and we are born in specific situations, we have some duties of this body and situation around us. That is called the bodily duties, right? Bodily responsibilities. The whole varnashrama arrangement, what you see, is basically based on this arrangement, this swadharma. Swadharma of what? Swadharma of the guna and karma. It is based on your previous activities and based on your specific inclination to do something. So that becomes swadharma for us now with regard to this body. So why this point Krishna is telling to Arjuna is that you are born as a kshatriya, or rather your duty is to do what you are supposed to do is that you are your specific duty is of a kshatriya, right? So your duty of a kshatriya is to fight. So there's no other better engagement for you than fighting on, not simply whimsically, but on religious fighting. Dharma yuddha is very important. Not whimsical fighting, like how fights are going on now all over the world. This yuddha is dharma yuddha, very important. So there are some specific responsibilities for every varna and ashrama, every order, every particular caste and particular social order. So this particular order duties Krishna later explains in the last chapter. But right now Krishna is stressing to Arjuna that because we have got a body in a specific situation, Arjuna, because you are taken up the duty of a kshatriya, you are supposed to do your duty of a kshatriya. So why are you running away from this duty? That is the point which Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna. And as spirit soul, we also have a duty, right? As spirit soul, we have a duty that we are supposed to serve Krishna, because we are part and parcel of Krishna. Jivera Swarupa Nitya Krishna Dasa. There is our specific duty as a soul. So when we take out or when we carry out the duties given by Krishna, as given in Bhagavad Gita, with regard to our specific duties, this body, then automatically Krishna says you're also performing duties to your soul also, because the duties to our body are designed in such a way that the duties are complementing with the duties of the soul. Because those varnashrama duties, what is described in the various scriptures, is all ultimately meant to satisfy Krishna. They're all meant to finally give pleasure to Krishna. Any from any varna, any ashrama, right? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, anybody in any status, any social status, spiritual status, they are meant to satisfy Krishna. So if you just follow these duties properly, that's what Krishna to gradually make you go step by step. Prabhupada used one word. Varnashrama dharma is like a man's stepping stone for spiritual understanding. Right? So Varnashrama dharma as of now is not being followed. What is the alternate solution? We'll see in the later chapters. But right now, Krishna is talking to Arjuna 5,000 years ago when Varnashrama was very much prevalent. Right? So the first verse, Krishna is talking about the specific duty of a Kshatriya. And especially with regard to Arjuna, he should do his duty as a Kshatriya. And for a Kshatriya, when there is a need for Dharma Yuddha, he should not hesitate to fight. That's what Krishna is telling Arjuna in this verse number 31. Let's move to the next verse number 32. So here specifically, Krishna is telling about the result what the Kshatriyas are going to attain by fighting. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of heavenly happiness or heavenly planets. If you remember, in the first chapter, Arjuna had put various reasoning and understandings to Krishna that if we fight Krishna, we'll go to hell. So Krishna is telling now as an answer, no, Kshatriyas doing their duty, actually it's going to open doors of heaven for them. Prabhupada explains how Kshatriyas, if they very bravely fight on the battle and they die, they are going to achieve heavens. Just see, because this is the result of doing duties in Varnashrama system. Varnashrama is so wonderfully arranged that everybody doing their duties will get their perfection in their duties. That's why performance of duty is stressed in Bhagavad Gita so much. Because in human form, we are supposed to perform our human duties and so many other responsibilities. If you run away from responsibilities, then you are committing sin. That's what Krishna explains. Right? So Arjuna's attitude is in one sense condemned here, because he was telling, I don't see any good in fighting Krishna. It will cause, perpetual habitation in hell. That was Arjuna's way of talking, right? Because Arjuna was talking all this out of his limited understanding. He didn't have proper understanding, and he wanted to become non-violent. He wanted to go away from fighting, right? So Prabhupada says to become non-violent by a Kshatriya on the battlefield is a philosophy of fools. In fact, Prabhupada also comments elsewhere. Many times great personalities, so-called great personalities in this world, they try to prove that Bhagavad Gita is talking about non-violence. Right? Bhagavad Gita is openly talking about violence. Krishna telling Arjuna, you fight. Where is the question of non-violence? Right? So this point of non-violence and ahimsa and so many things are all simply, some imagination and some concocted ideas which somebody want to present their ideas through Bhagavad Gita. They want to use Bhagavad Gita's name and Bhagavad Gita's understanding to prove their logic. That is wrong. When there is requirement of fight, violence to maintain law and order, it is essential, right? So it is very important that we understand the proper spirit, because when you say there is no police required, it only means that everybody are so good, law and order is abided by everybody so nicely, no police required. But you don't see such situation in society. There will be situation wherein there will be people who would violate the rules and regulations. Right? If everybody is going very nice, very well, nobody is required to monitor you. But the human society is such that there will be violations, because everybody has free will. So the usage of free will is such that anybody will do anything anytime, which will actually cause disturbance to others. In order to check this disturbance to others, it is essential that the Kshatriya's duty is to see that he takes up these actions of violence. Prabhupada gives example, even say a few 50 years or 100 years before, there were kings in Kashmir who used to punish the wrongdoers so strongly that somebody has committed theft, then they would cut off the hands of the thief. The punishment was very exemplary, so that other thieves will be afraid. Oh, if I do theft, then my hand will be cut off. That is the level of way the punishment was given, and the kings were ruling the whole the states. But nowadays, anything wrong happens, then it will go to court, and when it will come for hearing, you have to wait. By the time, whether you are alive or no, don't know. That's what is happening presently. So many years it will take. Somebody has murdered. After 20 years, hearing comes when he has passed away. The person who has filed the case. So like this is the present judicial system, present day. So because of which the wrongdoers get more empowered and they think, oh, we can do anything and nobody's going to check us, right? Whereas the Kshatriya system is not like that. Kshatriya way of ruling was not like that. It was meant for giving justice to everybody. Kshatriya basically means, Prabhupada explains, Kshat means hurt. Trayate means one who gives you relief from all the hurt or pain. There are two types of pain. One is this material pain. One more is spiritually we are right now completely in ignorance. The Kshatriya is supposed to give you relief both materially and spiritually. Right? That's why Kshatriya's responsibility is very great. He's supposed to give you a comfortable life in the material world and also prepare you for your next future life. That is spiritual life in the spiritual world. That is the understanding. Okay, so here Krishna is specifically telling that you are fighting and you are openly, bravely killing others or you getting killed. Actually, it's going to open doors of heaven for you. Why are you hesitating to fight? Next verse number 33. Krishna is saying, however, if you do not fight this religious war, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Again, this is a statement Krishna is trying to counter those statements made by Arjuna in the first chapter. If you remember, Arjuna said, sin will overcome us, Krishna, if we fight these aggressors. That was the statement he had made. So Krishna is answering them, telling actually, if you do not fight, then sin will overcome you. Sin will overcome you, which means if you don't fight, actually, you will incur sins for neglecting your duties. Sangramam na karishyati. Right? Because your swadharma of Kshatriya you are neglecting. And you lose your reputation as a fighter. Arjuna had great, reputation with regard to getting many wonderful weapons from different devatas. Prabhupada explains how with Lord Shiva he had a fight, whether it was a competition sort of a thing, and Shiva being pleased with Arjuna, he had given him one weapon by name Pashupatastra, right? And similarly, even Indra had given him special weapons. So like this, different great personalities had gifted powerful weapons to Arjuna. And also Krishna himself was there as a chariot driver for him, his friend, and was all powerful. So with all these wonderful privileges with Arjuna, he is hesitating to fight. So people will make fun of him. That is what Krishna is going to speak now. Right? What are you doing, Arjuna? You are talking about sin and piety, but actually you will be incurring sin if you don't fight. This is actually Krishna is trying to explain from the aspect of duty. Not performing your duty, you will be incurring sins, and also it will bring disrepute to you. Right? He says, "Tatha swadharmam kirtim cha." If you don't perform your duty, then you're going to lose your fame. So further, Krishna says in verse number 34, people will always speak of your infamy, and for one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. A very significant statement Krishna is making. He says, Sambhavitasya cha kirtir maranad atirichyate. Prabhupada very nicely explains in one context. Chanakya Pandit says, one who is famous is going to live forever because of his fame. Right? Basically, anybody who is famous forever, he is going to live always amidst the people in terms of his great work. So here, Arjuna's fame was already so wonderful, but his action of not fighting will bring him so much of infamy, akirti. Krishna is telling, Sambhavidasya akirti, because you're not trying to fight, your respectability as a fighter will come down, you'll face infamy. And this dishonor is worse than death. Basically, Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, if you leave the battlefield, people will call you a coward even before your actual fight. Right? And even if you think that people may call you bad names, but that you will save your life by fleeing the battlefield, then my advice is that you would better to die in the battle. Krishna is saying, more worse than getting infamy. That is more worse. Better that you die here only. On the battle, fight and die. That is the advice which Krishna is trying to give Arjuna indirectly. Because for a respectable person, becoming infamous is worse than death. Many times, you would have experienced this. Respectable family, something dishonor thing is, happened in the house. For the people in the family, it is like, very embarrassing. They feel so much embarrassing that, why this happened? It is not, not at all good for our family, like that. So basically, Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, the way you're acting now is so degrading, actually, that you are running away for your life in one sense. And this running away for your life out of fear, people will comment in different ways about you, and this will only bring you more and more disrepute. So this better that you die in the battlefield fighting, and this will save you from bad reputation and misusing my friendship in one sense, and you losing prestige in society. So basically, Krishna indirectly is inducing Arjuna to fight in different ways, to do his duty. See, from the verse 31 onwards, we have been seeing in different ways, Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, do your duty, do your duty. Why are you running away from your duty? Whatever situation it is, face it. It may bring you, it may make you very vulnerable, or it may make you, situation of death, but do your duty. That is the point which Krishna is trying to tell again and again. Next, very interesting, Krishna says about the duty of Kshatriya. He says, the great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only. And thus they will consider you a coward. Later on, in 18th chapter, Krishna is going to describe about the different qualities of a Kshatriya. Right? One of the qualities of Kshatriya is that he doesn't run away from the battlefield. Yuddhe cha pipalayanam. Yuddha cha apalayanam. Apalayana means running away. Right? So, Kshatriya will never run away from the battle. He will face boldly. In this context, Prabhupada gives a very nice story. He says, there was one great general by name Yashomanta Khan, Yashomanta Singh, and he was the commander-in-chief of Aurangzeb's army. So it so happened that Yashomanta Singh, he was fighting on a battle, and he suddenly came back to his home. The battle was still going on, but he had run away come from the battle. So his wife had told the guards at his palace that don't allow him to come inside. So he came and knocked the door, and the guards told, no, you're not allowed. Then the guards again came and spoke to the wife of that, Yashomanta Singh. Your husband has come, he's asking to come in. Well, no, my husband cannot come because my husband is very brave, brave warrior. Either he'll be killed on the battlefield or he'll come victorious. So basically, Kshatriya's one important quality is, on the battlefield, either he will fight bravely and kill the opposing enemy, or he himself will fight so bravely that the enemy may kill him. Either of the two has to happen. Not that you run away from the battle. Or in the modern days, the main commander or the chief person is somewhere sitting in the AC room, and all poor soldiers are fighting in front. That is again, is a full is a joke, is a mockery, right? So you see in the battlefield, all the great generals are in the front. Right? That's what Krishna is sharing Arjuna. People will speak different ways on you, Arjuna. Basically, the great generals who know you're so great in your fight, know your name and fame, will think that you run away from battlefield out of fear. And thus they will think that you are a coward, right? That way, don't underestimate yourself or undervalue yourself in front of them. Please fight. That is Krishna's advice. Now, next, verse number 36. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What would be more painful for you? So in different ways, Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna that this, your so-called compassion, and so many other wonderful things you're spoken is of no use, Arjuna. You please show your bravery as a Kshatriya and fight, right? So people will not understand your soft-heartedness and your good understanding about your other brothers and other relatives, but they'll only see that you are run away from the battlefield and you're a coward, and it's very painful for all of us to see. So further, Krishna says, very nicely, Krishna explains, Hato va prapsasi swargam jitva va bhokshase mahim tasmad uttishta kaunteya yuddhaya krita nishchaya. He says, O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up and fight with determination. Krishna is trying to conclude whatever he has spoken so far in this few verses. But either you fight, when you fight on the battlefield, either you'll be killed, attain heavens, swargam, prapsasi swargam, or you fight and you win the battle, then you'll enjoy the earthly kingdom. So in either case, you should fight. Please get up and fight with determination. See, that's why the whole Bhagavad Gita, if you see, Krishna repeatedly calls for action from Arjuna to fight. When you say fight, it basically means you have to act. Not that you heard Bhagavad Gita everything and you sit silently. No. Bhagavad Gita means after hearing Bhagavad Gita, you have to put the knowledge in action. Right? There are three aspects of our faculty of the mind. Mind has three particular features. What are they? They are called thinking, feeling, and willing. Right? Anything which you want to work upon or act upon will begin as a thought process, thinking. Then you feel for it. Then you act. That is willing. And you act through your senses, your working senses, hands, legs, mouth. Like this, this is how our whole actions happen. So Rupa Goswami explains in Nectar of Devotion, one of the wonderful literatures, that is the science of devotion. He says, Bhakti means practical activity, wherein you engage your Jnanendriya. Jnanendriya means knowledge acquiring senses. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue. All these are called touch, the skin are all called Gyanendriya, wherein you are getting knowledge. You engage your Gyanendriya and Karmendriya. Karmendriya means action senses in service of Krishna in authorized way as given by Prabhupada. Right? So, bhakti doesn't mean, otherwise Prabhupada described bhakti as devotional service. Many times you have heard people telling, I have a lot of bhakti in heart. Lot of bhakti in heart, but action zero. That is not required. You want practical action. So Prabhupada always said, devotional service. What is that you're going to do? Devotional service. What is the practically what you're going to do? Prabhupada gives a very nice, Vrindavan, in front of Lord Krishna's altar, big hundi is there. They'll say, Krishna, for you 1 rupee. Into hundi. Balance 1 crore for my wife, children, everybody. So Prabhupada says, Krishna also will 1 rupee for you. So you should understand how much you surrender, what is the practical action with regard to how much you have kept Krishna sees, not how much you have given him. Right? Krishna wants sarvadharman parityajya. Complete surrender means everything you have to give. Whatever is there with you is all his only. You are simply holding it back. More you give, better for you. Sooner you give, good for you. If you don't realize this, then you will continue suffering. Right? That is what Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna told already about this, that don't become a kripana, miser. Become a brahmana. Brahmana means liberal person who understands the purpose of life, value of life, and he surrenders to Krishna's service fully. Tan, man, dhan, bolte hain Hindi mein. Right? Everything completely surrendered to Krishna. So that is what is expected from all of us, because that is what our situation actually is. Constitutional situation is that. So all these various statements Krishna is making here is all indirectly hinting out that holding on to things for ourselves and having our own aspirations, our own plans is all going to hurt ourselves, is all going to harm ourselves. Better we act as per Krishna's plans, Krishna's directions, and free ourselves. With this, Krishna concludes in the verse number 38. He says, Sukhe dukhe same kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Right? It's a very wonderful verse. Very nicely Krishna words it. He says, do thou fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing, you shall never incur sin. Krishna says, Yuddhaya Ujjasva. Fight for the sake of fighting. Very important statement. You have to do duty for the sake of duty. You should apply this for everything. Chant for the sake of chanting. Okay, nothing else. Fight for the sake of fighting. Duty. Right? You have to do parenting for the sake of parenting. Because you're a parent. Like this, everything as a duty you have to do. You cannot run away. It's an obligation. They're called obligated duties. Obligations which you are supposed to be doing. So Krishna is hinting out to Arjuna that fight for the sake of biting. Why? Because Krishna desires this battle. It's a very important statement Prabhupada makes. Right? When there is Krishna's decision, when there is authority decision, there is no consideration of sukha, dukkha, labha, jaya, alabha, right? Profit, loss, happiness, distress. No consideration. Right? Everything should be performed as a duty for the sake of Krishna's pleasure. Whether sukha happens, dukkha happens, jaya comes, no jaya comes, victory, no victory, it's Krishna's consideration. You should do your work as a surrendered soul. Right? This is what Krishna is explaining here. And slowly Krishna is introducing the concept of Bhakti Yoga now. Bhakti Yoga means complete surrender. And doing activities in line with Krishna's understanding. Because right now, we're doing our activities according to our understanding. What I want, what I like, I have my own preferences. I have my own way of working. That is what I'm trying to do now. But that way of doing is not going to satisfy you. Very nice example Prabhupada gives. Yesterday we were hearing Prabhupada's lecture. The whole material world is constructed in a way that if you don't satisfy Krishna, you will not get satisfaction. Prabhupada gives a nice example. A nice cake you're holding. The fingers think, let me eat this cake myself. Fingers think that way. What will happen? Fingers will only crumble or rather spoil the cake. Rather, the finger should take the cake and put it in the mouth. And the mouth, cake will go inside the stomach. Once stomach, cake goes, wow, both the hands are very happy. Right? I eaten the cake. Not only hands, your whole body is happy. That is exactly the principle of how this world is working. Right? When you satisfy Krishna, you are also satisfied automatically. Just like when you water the root of a tree, separately you need not water tree, the branches, the twigs, the leaves, the flowers, etc., etc., etc. Everything gets nourished automatically. So this principle is how the whole spiritual world is working. In material world, we have forgotten this and we are trying to enjoy independently. Self-centered. The self-centered happiness is what is creating a lot of problems. Life after life, we are trying this. But no satisfaction, no happiness, only frustration, bewilderment, defeat. So better or sooner we realize that there's no point in doing this. The only way to satisfy myself is to satisfy Krishna. Rather, when you satisfy Krishna, automatically Krishna gives satisfaction. That is the principle. Right? You take pleasure by giving pleasure to Krishna. That is the principle which Krishna is trying to tell here. That when you do activities the way Krishna wants us to do, what the whole Bhagavad Gita is, then you will see the real satisfaction of your actions. Otherwise, always you will be dissatisfied. So Prabhupada explains very nicely that one who has surrendered himself to Krishna 24 hours, which is called Krishna consciousness, right? He is not obliged to anyone. He has no obligation to anyone. He is completely, taken care of by Krishna in all his various requirements. Right? Whereas anybody who is not surrendered to Krishna has so many duties to perform. For a surrendered devotee, he has no other things to perform. It's an important principle Krishna is going to drive throughout Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So with this, we complete the next section, which is about Karma Yoga. We'll try to summarily try to understand whatever we understood now in a few minutes now. The Karma Yoga section, which Krishna explained finally, is about Krishna was stressing on the prescribed duty. All of us have various prescribed duties, especially with regard to Arjuna. His prescribed duty was to fight, right? His Swadharma was to fight, but he was hesitating to fight. So he was giving various reasoning that, if I fight, then I'll not be able to enjoy. Krishna said, why you'll not be able to enjoy? If you fight and kill, you are going to enjoy kingdom, or if you are dying, then you'll enjoy heavens. Arjuna's one more argument was, sin will overcome us. Krishna said, if you don't fight, you'll incur sin. Right? Arjuna's argument on compassion will bring about infamy. Krishna variously nicely explained that actually as a Kshatriya, if you don't fight, and your whole good fame and good reputation will completely will be spoiled. So this is what Krishna has explained in this third section of second chapter. Let's move to the next section, the fourth section. The fourth section, verse number 39. Krishna is telling, thus far I have declared to you the analytical knowledge of Sankhya philosophy. Now listen to the knowledge of yoga, whereby one works without fruitive result. O son of Pritha, when you act by such intelligence, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. So Krishna is going to begin the next section now. So far, he has spoken about the science of the soul, about the performance of duty, Now, the third section, Krishna is going to talk about what is known as Buddhi Yoga. That's why in this specific verse, if you see verse number 39, Krishna uses the word Buddhi Yoge Tvaimam Shunu, he says. Right? So, Ete Abhita Sankhya. Sankhya basically means analytical study of the soul. Right? Yes, very analyzed the different aspects of the soul. Soul is immortal, soul is everlasting, soul is not dying. Nothing is going to kill the soul. So many ways Krishna analyzed. Right? Sankhya basically means analysis. So now Krishna is going to speak about yoga. What type of yoga? That type of yoga wherein you work without fruitive results. And when you work, it's called buddhya yukto. When you work without fruitive results, which means when you do any action, you don't expect any result from that action. And this is going to give you relief from or liberation from karma bandhana, bondage of reaction, bondage of works. So Krishna is going to talk about a very wonderful direction to us now. Intelligence. One intelligent direction is going to give. This intelligent direction is so nice. If you act in that direction, you will not be entangled. Karma bandham prahasyasi. You will be released from this bondage. Just see, wonderful. Krishna is going to talk something which is better, which is much higher than what he has spoken so far, in one sense. Right? So, Prabhupada very nicely explains that the analytical study of the soul and the body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna in the previous sections, right? Now, this various descriptive knowledge of the body and soul was basically to explain to all of us from different angles of vision to make us understand that we are spirit soul, we are not the body. Right? A similar, very detailed description, analytical description of the further detailed breakup of the body itself, how this body is formed, what are the various ingredients of this body, and further about the soul, and so many further descriptions are given by Lord Kapila in Bhagavata as a description to his mother Devahuti. Right? That is in third canto of Bhagavatam. So again, detailed description is there. We can refer them whenever you have sufficient time. It's a very nice description. Around at least 7-8 chapters, detailed description is there. How this body is formed, and once this body is formed, how it is entangled in karma, what goes on, and how we get liberated, like this, detailed description is there for 8-10 chapters. Okay, so that is a different subject matter. We'll not touch now, but for time being, the word Sankhya is used. So there also Kapila Muni explains Sankhya philosophy in Bhagavata. Here, a similar word Krishna is using, the same Lord Krishna's incarnation only, who's preaching this knowledge. Kapila Muni, Lord Kapila incarnation, is incarnated to give knowledge. In fact. Now, Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna about one important principle which is going to be explained throughout Bhagavad Gita. That is called Buddhi Yoga. See, we also have Buddhi. Buddhi means intelligence. Intelligence means direction. A discriminative power to discriminate what is right, what is wrong, what is the correct direction. It is called intelligence. So this intelligence right now is conditioned intelligence in our case. So when you connect our intelligence with Krishna's intelligence, that is called Buddhi Yoga. What does yoga mean? Connection, link, right? Joining. Just like a boy and a girl, they connect through good yoga, marriage. So when you connect our buddhi with Krishna's buddhi, then it becomes Buddhi Yoga, which means our way of analyzing, our way of directions, what we do, we surrender to Krishna's way of directions. We will not take directions the way conditionally we are having. We take Krishna's directions. Prabhupada very nicely explains, Buddhi Yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness, in the full bliss and knowledge of devotional service. Right? So, completely understanding that I am part and parcel of Krishna, and working only for Krishna's pleasure is what is called Buddhi Yoga. One who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only, however difficult such work may be, is working under the principles of Buddhi Yoga and finds himself always in transcendental bliss. Very important principle Krishna is going to explain further, but here only some points are mentioned here. So, in Buddhi Yoga, also known as Bhakti Yoga, the way of working is what? You're working for the satisfaction of the Lord. Because right now your Buddhi is directing you to satisfy yourself. There are two types of satisfaction of the self. Either personal self as a body or extended self. That is my family, my community, my society, my colony, my RWA, my country, like this. So many things. So extended, either selfish or extended. This is the way our Buddhi is directing us right now. But when our Buddhi directs us, not for either Aham or Mama, it only directs you towards Krishna. That is called Buddhi Yoga. Works only for satisfaction of Krishna. However difficult such work may be, that intelligence is working in the direction of Krishna. That is called Buddhi Yoga. And this is going to really give us actual satisfaction of the soul. Any other activity is only going to give us only dissatisfaction. It's a very important point Prabhupada mentions. So basically, Buddhi Yoga means it's a transcendental activity, the spiritual activity. It is not of any material type, spiritual activity. Now Krishna is going to explain the different qualities or different features of this Buddhi Yoga. Next verses onwards. What is Buddhi Yoga? Now Krishna said, so far I have explained to you about the analytical study of body and soul. Now I am going to explain to you about what is known as Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. And Buddhi Yoga, Bhakti Yoga means acting only for satisfaction of Krishna, working only for satisfaction of Krishna. And what is that work? How to satisfy Krishna is what the rest of the Bhagavad Gita is going to explain to us. Now Krishna is going to explain to us the wonderful features of this Buddhi Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. One feature Krishna explains is, in this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. And a little advancement on this path can protect one from the greatest or most dangerous type of fear. Very beautiful verse. Krishna says, Neha vikramo nashosti pratyavayo na vidyate svalpam api yasya dharmasya trayate mahato. This point Krishna is telling to Arjuna. Basically, Arjuna was thinking about loss. Great loss is going to happen, Krishna. If I kill all these people on the battlefield, so many things, loss is going to happen. Krishna says, if you work under my direction, if you do activities for my satisfaction, no loss. There is no loss, no diminution. Such a wonderful statement. You see, everything is connected to the first chapter. So the first chapter is important to understand properly. Otherwise, you will think, why Krishna is talking this? There's a reason. Because when somebody asks some question, Kamaji asked me a question, I had to use some words from his question to answer his question. Otherwise, it will be like out of the context. He's asking about Ramayana, I speak about Mahabharata, no connection. Right? So that is the point. So we have to have connection, means Krishna is also using the words, what Arjuna has used. Later on, Arjuna is going to ask further questions on what Krishna has spoken. This is the way the conversation continues. Right? So here, Krishna says, which endeavor? There is no loss, no diminution. The endeavor in Bhakti Yoga. If you do Bhakti Yoga, no loss, only gain. Because little you do activity also, Salpam api yasya dharmasya, it will go to, what is the biggest gain you're going to get? You will be freed from birth, death cycle. Prabhupada says, very important point Krishna is making in this verse is, Bhakti Yoga is always cumulative. In the material attempt, anything you do is going to end with your life. I have so much property. I have so much bank balance. I have studied so many degrees, so much accomplishment. Nothing will come to you next life, over this life. So nice, loving wife, you have to live. So nice, beautiful children. Oh, everybody have to leave and go. Over. This chapter closed forever with this in this life. But Bhakti Yoga, if you have done, Prabhupada says, you have done 10% Bhakti Yoga seriously. The measure is there. Next life, you'll begin from 11th%. That's why all of you are sitting here. Because you have done some Bhakti Yoga in your previous life. Otherwise, why interest? Somewhere you have done and it's discontinued. Again started. So whatever you do in Bhakti Yoga is your permanent asset. That's what Krishna is trying to tell you. You're going to go in your permanent spiritual account. The spiritual bank account in your life. It will go there. One chanting of Hare Krishna means, oh, it has gone and deposited in a spiritual bank account. So Prabhupada says, why one mala, why 16 malas? More and more you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So, the point is, any material activity you do, whatever great it may be, not going to last. That's what Krishna said, no. What did he say? Anything which is asat, not going to last. Sat, everlasting. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata. Verse number 16. Right? So Krishna already has told all the principles now. He's going to build up on the principles now. So, any material quality, any material work has this quality. Anything you do, best of the best, it will go to be finished. But spiritual activity, little also you do, great benefit. Krishna consciousness is a continuous activity. Right? That's why little also you do, something you do, something you do. Say Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam. Because next life at least will continue. That is the whole purpose of Krishna consciousness movement. Sometimes people ask, oh, Krishna consciousness movement is growing now. Yes, it is growing because so many entities, previous life, somewhere they completed to some level, they are continuing now. It will continue further. Right? So there is a golden age for this Krishna consciousness movement for next 10,000 years. The whole world will become Krishna conscious. That is the point. So the unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness is explained and stressed here in this particular verse. Krishna is going to explain further in the next verses. Maybe we should conclude now. So to conclude, we have understood today the third section of Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, wherein Krishna is talking about the karma, the duties with regard to everybody. There are two types of duties. One is duty concerning our body, which is because of our previous karma and our specific inclinations called gunas. And also as a spirit soul, we have specific duty of devotion service to Krishna. Right? So both of them has to go hand in hand, and a very nice way Krishna explains that later on. So with regard to Arjuna, Krishna is telling Arjuna that why are you running away from your duty of a Kshatriya? You have to do your duty, and not doing your duty will only bring you disrepute. And dishonor is worse than death. Please do your duty of fighting, especially with regard to this fighting. It is my order, it's my desire. Please do it. Right? Fight for the sake of fighting. Right? Chant for the sake of chanting. Very important. So this is what it is. So it's a duty, which means right now I don't like chanting, but do. It's required because Prabhupada has ordered. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has ordered. That is the point you're supposed to have. Right? Then what happens? The duty becomes very important, rather very nice for us to move forward in our spiritual life. Otherwise, duty becomes very burdensome and troublesome. Further, Krishna explains now in the next section, the fourth section, called Buddhi Yoga. So far, I've explained or done the analytical study, the Sankhya of the body and the soul, detailed way. Now I'm going to explain to you about one important principle with the whole Bhagavad Gita is going to talk about is Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga means connecting our intelligence with the supreme intelligence of Krishna. Buddhi Yoga. And this intelligence is going to really lift you up from your material type of living to spiritual existence. And that is what Krishna had to explain. The first feature of this Buddhi Yoga Krishna explains is that anything you do in Buddhi Yoga as per directions of authorized representatives is not going to give you any sort of a loss or any sort of a pain, only going to give you gain. right? It's going to be cumulative. It's going to be continuous. There is no loss for you at all. Okay. So with this, I conclude. I'll take a few questions or any doubts, clarifications now before we end for the day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Today's
Hare
lecture
Krishna.
was very good. Actually, now I've started seeing the whole context in the real way. I was reading it earlier also, but I'm really understanding it properly.
Good. Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Very nice. Nice to know that. See, when you read Bhagavad Gita, the way it has to be done now, you'll relish the Bhagavad Gita. You will enjoy reading Bhagavad Gita. You want to read Bhagavad Gita every day. Because the subject matter is so wonderful. In fact, towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, Sanjaya, he says that, he says almost towards the end, concluding, he's again telling to Dhritarashtra, Rajan samsnutya samvadam idam adbhutam Keshava Arjunayo punyam rishyamita muhu. Says, O king, addressing Dhritarashtra, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna-Arjuna Samvada, right? What happens when I repeatedly recall? I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. When you feel thrilled, when you see a thriller movie, right? Or when you go to some, some, amusement parks, some thriller, arrangements are there. But here, Bhagavad Gita is going to give such a wonderful thrill, spiritual thrill, that simply reading and intellectually absorbing them is going to give you wonderful, experience. Prabhupada says, the transcendental understanding of Bhagavad Gita is so spiritual, so sublime, that anyone who becomes conversant with the topics of Arjuna and Krishna becomes righteous, and he cannot forget such talks. That is the way. This is the transcendental position of spiritual life, Prabhupada says. So basically, this is the whole point. Spiritual life is not simply dry, without any activity and very, like dull. No. Spiritual life is full of thrill. That's what is going on in spiritual world. Krishna is inviting us. Come. Every moment there is excitement. I'll give you an example. Say, for instance, if I tell you, day after tomorrow I'll come to your home. First immediate response is what? Rituji, tell me.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. We will be excited, Nana. We'll make preparations.
Excited, yes. First is excitement. Your excitement has begun already. The moment I told I'm going to come to your home, right? Though I will not even come, but excitement has begun. Why? Because, Prabhuji is coming. Then as the time goes nearer and nearer, he's going to come. What arrangement I have to make? I have to do that, I have to do this. You start doing so many activities and you're trying to see everything is pakka, everything is good. Right? And on the day of arrival, yes. Right? Just giving an example only. We are all ordinary people. I'm telling you, what about Krishna? Krishna is waiting for our arrival in the spiritual world. And have this, and this exchange with Krishna is so exciting, so thrilling, right? And every moment, you don't know what is going to happen next, because Krishna has so many wonderful ways of having, exchange with every devotee. It is so enchanting, so enlivening, so charming, and so you can go on adding. Right? That's how it is. That's spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan. That's what Krishna is inviting us. And we are not even interested, as though it is very boring. What is Bhagavad Gita? I don't understand. Whereas Bhagavad Gita is having this thrill. Right? And further Sanjaya says in verse number 77, last chapter, when I remember the wonderful form of Krishna, I am struck with even great wonder. How great Krishna is, because whole Bhagavad Gita is talking about Krishna. Who is Krishna? And I rejoice again and again. Hrishyami cha punah punaha. Right? That is the way Bhagavad Gita is. So nice to know that. Continue reading Bhagavad Gita. So far we have studied now second chapter, 40 verses over. It's more than 50% over of second chapter also. So continue reading, because second chapter is considered to be the one of the tough chapters in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, not easy to understand. But nevertheless, we're trying to understand this Prabhupada's mercy, Krishna's mercy. Right? So far it has been very smooth. I hope everybody has understood whatever we have spoken so far, trying to discuss. Right? Very simple. Krishna has spoken. Arjuna Krishna's conversation is continuing in the first 10 verses. Krishna is talking about the signs of the soul in next 11th to 30th verse. Just now, today we discussed, Krishna is talking about the duty. What, as a Kshatriya, what you should do. It all refers to us also. As a human being, what I should be doing. What is my duty? Specifically in specific situations, as a parent, what is your duty? As working in an organization or a company, what is your duty? All that has to come in a picture. Anything you do which is wrong is going to bring disrepute, dishonor, and dishonor is worse than death. So do your duty for the sake of duty. Fight for the sake of fighting, is what Krishna said. Right? Like this. Very simple. What you understood so far in 40 verses. This is what you're going to supposed to remember, recall again and again. That's what Sanjaya says. Recall this wonderful dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna. When you know the subject matter, you have to contemplate. You have to remember. Just like these cows, they eat the grass, they ruminate.
Yeah.
Right? After eating, they bring it back to their mouth and start chewing. It's called rumination. So we are supposed to do rumination. What we hear, we have to remember, recollect, contemplate. Because when you do this, the subject matter become fixed up in our subtle mind, subtle consciousness. See, there's something known as short-term memory and long-term memory. Now you have heard, you have understood, oh, very nice, very nice. After 1 month, nothing is remembering. So to put the subject matter in long-term memory, you have to repeatedly remember. Something you have repeatedly remembered, then you will not forget. Just like in nursery, I have learned twinkle, twinkle, little star, right? Now also I remember. Why? Because it has gone in long-term memory. Similarly, if it has to go to long-term memory, you have to remember repeatedly. Very important. Then Bhagavad Gita is here and you are here and always it is with you. Always is with you. Okay, fine. Any other question?
Yeah. Prabhu,
yes,
I have one question.
Yes, come on. Please tell.
Yeah, this human form of life is very important to do all these activities.
Okay.
So what is the guarantee that we have to have a human form in our next life? What is to be done to guarantee that we will have a human form of life so that all these Bhagavad Gita things will continue? Otherwise, we will be lost.
Yeah, very important question. That's what we discussed in verse number 40 just now. Okay, so read the purport. Prabhupada says, if you do Bhakti Yoga, at least human life is guaranteed. Next life. You will not be degraded to next any other form. If you do Bhakti Yoga means chanting Hare Krishna, reading Bhagavad Gita, at least human form is guaranteed. So you can continue from wherever you are left.
Yes.
Okay, if you don't do Bhakti Yoga, no guarantee. Your life is like a football. Anywhere Maya can kick you, whichever life form she wants, based on your karma. Whereas when you do Bhakti Yoga, Krishna will ensure you, that's what Krishna says, no loss, only gain. What gain? At least you will get a human form next life. That's what Prabhupada says in the purport. You read carefully. Prabhupada makes a significant statement in this verse, 40th verse chapter. At least one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again as a human being. Which family? Either in a cultured Brahmana family or a rich aristocratic family.
Yes.
One chanting Hare Krishna will elevate you to such a level. Next life will become Devata. Oh, what a great fortune. Right? People are struggling to become Ambani, Adani, so many people. Right? You are above them. Right? So that is the position of chanting Hare Krishna. There's a nice statement in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It said, Govinda Smarana or Govinda Ucharana, one Govinda Ucharana, is not equivalent to giving millions of cows in charity or giving Meru Parvata gold. Means there's a mountain called Meru Parvata, Meru mountain, made of gold. It's a huge mountain. It's in the universe, somewhere in the universe. Even that much gold you give charity, that punya will not get by once uttering Hare Krishna. Right? One chanting Hare Krishna has got so much of your spiritual upliftment. And in Prayaga, or that confluence of three rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, there if you have done 1000 kalpas of the austerities, that tapasya also is nothing. That's the explanation given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chanting Hare Krishna is super excellent. Bhakti, any activity is super excellent. Very fortunate people only can do. If you are discussing Bhagavad Gita like this, it is like great personalities discussing the entire creation. That's what it is. Not easy. So Bhakti is having so much of high value. Any activity of Bhakti, reading Bhagavad Gita, trying to understand, follow Bhagavad Gita, chanting Hare Krishna, doing any service to Krishna, offering food to Krishna, is all high value spiritual activities. Okay? So this is the only thing which can ensure you. Work in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada says, carries the person again to Krishna consciousness even after the loss of this body. At least he will get next life human being. See, your question is answered.
Yes.
Today's verse.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Very nice. Okay, Hare Krishna. Any other question? Or should we close today? Deepak, do you want to ask something?
Well, Prabhuji, I think it's already 5. I can ask next this one.
Okay.
I mean, I can ask, but again, it is already 15 minutes. So I thought I'll ask you next time.
No problem. Today, we are one question you can ask.
Okay. Well, Prabhuji, I'm not able to frame the question correctly, but as I understand that it is Krishna has said this to Arjuna 5,000 years back, the whole Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
So, I mean, end of the Bhagavad Gita, he says that, Sarve Dharman Paritajya and Mamekam Sharanam and Satat Bhajanam, this is what he said. So, was he giving a hint that Kali Yuga is coming and people will not be able to do this yajna and other sacrifices? So, in a way, he was giving a hint that, okay, just do this and you will be coming to me. Because Kali Yuga people cannot do all these kind of things. But then he saw that even after 4,500 years have passed and people are still not coming. This is how he came as a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, again. They're okay, you just do this mantra, don't even read anything, just do this mantra. So can we assume that, okay, again he will wait for some more years and see that if still people are not doing and something else he will bring that, okay, do just this simple thing. Can I read like that, Prabhuji?
Okay. So if you have asked, your question is like, I will reframe it for you.
Yeah.
The question is, there are many hints in Bhagavad Gita indicating about the Sankirtana Yajna, right? In Kali Yuga.
Yes.
And Krishna has told this 5,000 years ago, and people were not following. So Krishna himself came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to further propagate this. And then there may be further opportunities for Lord to come again if the people don't follow. That is your question?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is, first aspect is the time frame. Time, you should understand, from Krishna's perspective, 5,000 years is like nothing. Just a flash. Just recently. It's like, you go to marriage yesterday, one of your friend's house. Today you will speak. Yesterday only you went. Like that, from Krishna's point of view, if 5,000 years is nothing. Okay, and Bhagavad Gita was spoken at the end of Dwapara and beginning of Kali Yuga, practically. And Kali Yuga is going to last for 4,32,000 years. Out of 4,32,000 years, 5,000 years have passed. Very negligent. Right?
Yeah.
It's maybe less than 0.5% or 0.2%, something like that. Very negligible. Nothing from that time scale. So, from his time scale, Krishna's time scale, it is, just Kali Yuga has begun. That is one aspect. One aspect of the answer. One more aspect of the answer to your question is Krishna keeps coming again and again. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam sajamyaham. This is a statement in 4th chapter. We'll see. Krishna makes this wonderful declaration. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Dharmasya glani. Whenever there is rise of irreligion, or whenever dharma principles is not followed, then I myself come, or I send my representatives. Abhyuthanam sambhavami yuge yuge. Which means, Dwapara Yuga Krishna came, and Kali Yuga Krishna has come already as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, appeared and he has gone back. And he's also appeared as holy name. Kali Kale Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar. So Krishna's avatara always keeps happening. Okay. So avatara is something. What does avatara mean? Avatara mean Krishna descending from spiritual world to material world. Why does he descend? To benefit all of us, to give spiritual benefit to all of us. Because nature of us in the material world is we keep forgetting Krishna. We keep forgetting about our duties. We do so much nonsense here. Right? Material world means forgetfulness of Krishna, Krishna's service. So Krishna has to come, or Krishna's representatives have to come. Krishna leaves behind him Vedas, scriptures, to again and again remind us what we are, what we're supposed to be doing, what is our connection with Krishna, all these things. Krishna has made so many wonderful opportunities, wonderful facilities. So in that context, if you see the two aspects of the answer, what I answered your question with regard to the time aspect, with regard to Krishna's incarnation. So there's a purpose for Krishna. And the third aspect as an answer to your question is, it's not that only in Kali Yuga Sankirtana is, will be there. Sankirtana is forever a process, always a process. Okay, it's only that it is, in Kali Yuga, because no other process is effective. Only Sankirtana is most effective. Prabhupada gives example in a drugstore, medical store. So many medicine are there for different type of diseases. The doctor's prescription for you specifically is that medicine which is going to be effective for your treatment. Right? So in that sense, Bhagavad Gita's instructions on stress of Kirtana and other aspects, which is again highlighted to us or made understood to us by Prabhupada, the Parampara Acharya. But otherwise, if you read Bhagavad Gita from any other commentator, you will not get this essence. You will misunderstand Bhagavad Gita. You will interpret Bhagavad Gita in your own way. Right? That understanding is not the proper understanding. The essence, the whole mood is present context. The relevance of now. What is relevance now? Right now you are suffering. What is the medicine for you? So in that way, Sankirtana is the best medicine, and it is proved medicine. It is very effective medicine, demonstrated by Prabhupada himself in the Western countries. Right? He has administered this medicine to them. They're all curing and cured. So we also have to take the same medicine. It's going to cure us. Sankirtana. This Hare Krishna Nama mantra is the medicine. And this medicine is so powerful that you can produce this medicine by your chanting, vibrating Hare Krishna. Okay. You vibrate Hare Krishna, medicine is produced. And once you vibrate this medicine or other produce medicine, you have to take the medicine through your ears. Okay. So the third aspect of the answer for your question is that Sankirtana and the Yuga Dharma of Kali Yuga may be Sankirtana, but Sankirtana has been always there. Just that it is more effective in the Kali Yuga because of people's disqualification in so many other ways. Krishna is going to explain the aspect of Ashtanga Yoga. It is not practical for people of Kali Yuga. Arjuna himself admits that. Not possible. But somebody may do it, few. But generally speaking, Sankirtana is most effective. And that's what Krishna appeared again as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to preach this Sankirtana. That is the whole context. So Prabhupada very nicely explains, Krishna told Sarvadharman Parityajya. Surrender to me, that's all he told. Okay. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began from surrender. After surrendering, what we should do. That is the continuation in one sense. Okay. So anyway, again, a big subject matter. I have just answered in a brief way to give you an overall perspective. Good. You have got a very good question. Okay.
Nicely
Nice.
answered.
Understand. Thank you. So I think I've taken a good time today to answer your questions. So we'll continue our discussions.
Thank you,
Next.
Lord.
I'm going a little slow because I don't want to rush. Sanyaji,
No, no, it's right.
I'm going slow with 10 verses only. I'm not rushing because I don't want to rush again. I can rush and complete 25 verses in a session.
This is good, probably. This is
That
good.
may
Yeah,
not,
yes,
serve,
Prabhuji.
may not
This
serve.
is going fine.
Huh?
Very good.
Going fine? Okay. I'm taking liberty to go a little more elaborately. Neither is not overview, it's a little more explained overview. Okay. So, overview it is. Overview means in one, I thought every session I take one chapter. Okay.
This is what we thought.
That speed means 4 months I was thinking. Now this speed will take more time. This may take 1 year also. Anyway, it doesn't matter. At least you'll get the complete picture of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, fine. So thank you everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.